The Long Walk by Sean Lansendorfer. Dara put on her headscarf and leather shoes. The dried mugwort was tucked away in her sock. The sage and cloves were prepared and stowed away in a bag at her belt, but the lavender was in a secret pocket she had sewn into her dress. The sun had not yet fully risen, but there was enough light to lift the darkness. It was magic hour. It was at this time that they were at their weakest, and she couldn't neglect going to the shrine any longer. Dara stretched her legs and recounted the rules. If you see the shadow or the eyes before passing the fallen tree, turn back. If you hear the whistle, keep your eyes forward and yourself out of its path. Keep moving so it won't compel you. If they beckon you, be polite, but look at their feet, never their face. She made sure her hair was put away and her dress was proper before donning her cloak. Look, but don't let them see you searching. Walk, but run once you pass the point of no return. You are small. You are meek. Don't attract attention. She looked up at the cross hanging over her door and said her prayers before exiting the house. The smell of rosemary at her threshold to keep them out. Dara knew it was a comfort that would soon fade as the wild winds blew across the field and carried their protection away. Dara could see the tree line and the woodland trail, 30 paces. If she didn't see it by then, she could make it. She had spied it lurking the last 2 days and had to turn back, but she had gone too long without making the trip. Out she went, one step after the other, as if nothing was amiss. She kept the count in her head and was conscious of the point of no return. If it was there and she had not noticed then, she would never make it. 15, 16, 17, 18. She counted in her head. There was no sign of it, and she was more than halfway there. 19, 20, 21. Perhaps it was her lucky day, and it was hunting elsewhere. A branch snapped. She had lost count. Her eyes darted back and forth, scanning the tree line, her flanks. If she ran so soon, it would draw attention, but if she ran too late, she'd be caught. Dara tried to take a breath, but fear had choked her. She looked for any sign, the shadow, those eyes, but the piercing gaze was nowhere to be seen. The fallen tree to her left was her marker. She started to run. She heard the heavy breathing and could feel the steely muscle of a beast looming over her as she ran. The tree line was so close, and the totem would protect her. Her legs were already burning, and her breathing was ragged from anxiety. Dara latched onto the tree and held it tight, as if fearing something would pull her away. She made it to the first checkpoint. The field was cleared, but the trip to the shrine was long and far from over. It was unwise to turn back. There was no benefit to looking. Dara felt the dreadful presence and the low growl that felt like pinpricks to her flesh. She had to move along. The sun was soon rising. Down the woodland trail she went, careful to stay on the path and ever mindful of her surroundings. Salt and sanctified ash made up the road and kept the unknown things of the forest away. She had to watch her every step, for one drifting stride off course could spell doom. The memory of Hild being dragged off by her hair was still clear in her mind. She straightened her skirt and made sure her headscarf and braids were still tied tightly. This would be her moment of peace unless that old spirit came down from the hills. And there it was. The tune rang in her ears, and her blood went cold. This was supposed to be the simplest part of her journey. Don't turn back. Keep walking. Don't let him know. She heard the steps, heavy and dragging. The whistling was still distant, but as persistent as fear of its pursuit. Was it already following her? They say they seldom ever do, that every spirit is different, but could she take that chance? It may have already locked onto her. The presence was faster with its long stride, and it would catch her. To look would be folly. That would only bring it upon her sooner. She had to let it pass, or if worse came to worse, trap it in a pattern. They always followed a line to its end, but making too obvious a move would be trouble. Oftentimes the presence would simply walk past, but if it had decided to mirror her steps, Getting it to follow her into a looping figure would be her only hope. Dayra had to know if it had imprinted onto her. She staggered her steps and heard the heavy footfalls mimic the staccato rhythm. Longer strides despite the matching gait. It would catch up to her soon, and she would be taken. She couldn't stop, but continuing would be her eventual end, so her reluctant funeral march came with its own dirge. The whistling tune became clearer to her as it neared. She would have to make some sort of effort before it was too late. Dayra clutched at the lavender in her pocket and the cloves secured to her belt. She would need them and couldn't use them now. The song felt as if it were blaring in her ear, and its cold breath against her neck. She took one of the divergent paths, though it was unknown to her. It was overgrown and looked treacherous, but she would only have to linger there for a moment. A slow, looping turn as its course followed her along the path. She made sure not to make her move too soon and risk coming face to face with it. Back on her route, but she would have to finish the figure. Another gentle loop, and she hurried ahead as the whistling faded in her ear. The infinite path of the Lemniscate. Dayra sighed. She had made it this far, but would need to be wary. A moment of inattentiveness or lax focus would mean death. She went around the bend and past the old home of the Blackburn clan. It was run down, yet she heard stirring within the walls. It wasn't them. Not anymore. She hurried along.
"Well, hello, young lady. Aren't you lovely?" said the voice from the woods. "I have a nice dress for you. Why don't you come over and see it?"
Don't look in its eyes. Be polite, she thought. "Oh, thank you, sir, but I don't have any money to spare."
"Now that is of no concern. Why not come over and try it on? You look so lovely. No cost in trying, and a pretty little thing like you deserves to look nice."
Dayra curtsied. She subtly studied the fiend and saw the fine clothes over its rotund frame, but made sure to stop just short of its eyes. Its smile was razors stretching flesh that had the look of curdled milk. She cast her gaze down and saw the fur and hooved feet beneath the silks. Her eyes settled on the gift so it didn't grow suspicious. One mustn't make them angry. The dress was of rich fabrics and sparkled in the coming light. It was tantalizing, but she knew better. The hypnotic allure shifted the perception of time. She couldn't dawdle and so snapped herself out of it. "It's lovely, but I can't accept such a gift without payment." Its double chins wriggled with its laugh.
"Oh, little sister, I'm sure we can settle it somehow."
Dayra reached for the bag at her belt and made a show of meekly offering it. The fiend reached out and snatched it from her in a frightening show of speed. He chuckled.
"My apologies for startling you, my dear."
Its long, slimy tongue trailed up her cheek as it reached into the bag. She was so close, but not near enough to take. It looked so smug, but opened its hand to find a fistful of clover burning the flesh of its palm. A shriek, and the shadow rushed back into the forest. The breeze came, and the autumn leaves rushed along her like a driving rain. Dayra moved along with hastened steps. She felt the eyes on her. The air grew heavy, and the whispers snuck in through the rising miasma. "I must avert my eyes," she said to herself as the realization came. "Don't let them fool you." They would try anything to enchant her and would drain her vigor with every moment she was under their spell. Loved ones, old homes, familiar sights, and the heart's desires would appear. They were all illusions, meant to get her to stray from the path and into their withering embrace. She just had to keep an eye on her feet and make sure she stayed where the salt and ash settled. "Help." It sounded so innocent, and it was in trouble. Her empathy was their means of snaring her this time. She looked up for only a moment, but that was enough. The tone changed. It was less convincing now. "Help." A little girl in a white dress beckoned for Dayra to follow her into the woods. Its excitement was poorly veiled, and she knew not to trust it. "It's my mother. Please." "Jesus preserve us. What was your mother's name?" Dayra asked. The spirit flinched, and the game was up. Unknowing of the answer, it grimaced at the Lord's name and faded back into the fog. It had forgotten the details of the dead girl it used as a disguise, and was too prideful to linger when bested. Dara knew to keep walking. She left a trail of lavender in her wake so no more would follow. The shrine was up ahead. One more clearing separated her from her goal. She caught a whiff of burning incense, and something else that made her eyes water as she stepped out of the forest and into the open field. Walk until you pass the line of stones. Say your prayers, and run the moment after. Dara scanned the tree line and felt her heart race as she neared her destination. She was so close, but there came the dread known only to those who were hunted. She kept her head straight and shifted her eyes to the edge of the forest. There it was, stalking her, keeping pace, a hulking shadow of animalistic vigor and foul blood. Its piercing yellow eyes followed her every step. The point of no return lay ahead. If it made its move now, she could make it back to the trail. If she passed the line of stones, and it had not charged, she could make it to the shrine if she ran. Both knew that, and each step was a careful dance. Don't let it know your fear. Don't show it uncertainty. Don't hesitate. Dara took every measured step and saw the beast match it as it circled her. To be deliberate and without fear, a misplaced footfall, a stumble, running too soon, all would be death. It tried to startle her with sudden barks and feints, pretending to lunge or just a simple tensing of its muscles. Dara had to stay strong and have faith. She needed to dictate the terms of this encounter and never give it the power to compel her into making a mistake. The line of stones was crossed, but her prayers were due. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray. The sight of smoke billowing up caught her eye, and her mind drifted. There was so much smoke coming from the church. What could that be? She had faltered. The beast rushed her, and she was forced into a desperate run. Dara couldn't stop thinking about whether she would make it or not. It was too late to do anything but try. Her frenzied strides were just short of madness, pushing her limits but careful not to risk tripping. She had the urge to look but knew it would make no difference, for it came all the same, and turning back would be the end of her. There was a splatter of blood and an inhuman howl. Dara felt the warm drops of corruption on her cheek and the taste of iron. She fell to the ground, and the ash came down upon her like a gentle snow. Was she slain? Was she being devoured? An ember burned the hand which she used to shield herself. She was still alive for now. Standing over the lycanthrope was a man of steely muscle, wearing furs and leather. He wrenched his axe from the beast and roared in bloody triumph. His braided beard had bits of red, and his dark hair was left hanging over his face as he removed his helmet. He brought his gaze to her helpless form, struck prone by his battle. The beasts that lurked in the dark forest and the foul spirits that haunted the wood and stone were known to her. This stranger was not, and his presence filled her with a greater dread, for he did not belong here. Dara knew not his intent or purpose, but his barbarous presence spoke loudly. A pagan. No cloves or lavender would repel him, no clever words were known to sway him, no tricks could stray his path. They knew only iron and bloodshed. "Who are you? What do you want?" she asked, doing her best to hide her apprehension. The man loomed over her, studying Dara intently. He knelt to wipe the viscera off his axe as he spoke in strange tongues. She did not know what to do.